What is up, everybody? It's Blair here again. We're doing some more fun boat stuff. I'm doing a lot of fiberglass work, but I'm just going to do a quick video on how to just do some basic fiberglassing. You'll see me use it throughout all the other videos that I'm working with fiberglass, but this one is just a very simple project that I can show you how to do very quickly. All right, so today's project is, this is the tackle box insert going in here. And what the problem I have is I have this lip right here. You can see that. And so that box is not going to sit flush around this. This edge has to be the same height as this, or I have to cut this down. I don't want to cut this down. So what I want to do is I want to raise the height of this all the way around to match this. The easiest way to do that is with some 2-inch biaxial 1708 tape. So this is the material we're using. I've already cut it to length to save you all that part of the video. But basically, I measured off this distance, and this distance, and I've cut pieces to where one will come up to here, this one will start here and come across to here, this one will butt up to it and come here, the next one will overlap that one, this one will be a short piece, and this one will overlap that one, and we're going to alternate so that you don't just have big seams. This will cause for a nice buildup as we do this, and we're going to be doing what they call wet on wet. So we're going to wet this out, we're going to lay a piece around this, and then we're going to wet the next one out, and we're going to keep stacking them while the first one's wet. And you can do this, and you actually get a much better bond when you do it this way, rather than let it dry and then do it again, and then let it dry and do it again. So first step, cut your materials. Second step, well, first step, measure everything. Measure twice, because fiberglass isn't cheap, and then cut your pieces out. Now, fiberglass does not do a lot for you if you don't have epoxy resin to mix and put in the fiberglass. That's what actually is the liquid that you coat it with, that when it cures, it turns hard. The fiberglass is just there for strength and to hold the epoxy together, because epoxy can be brittle on its own. So we're going to be mixing 2-to-1 marine epoxy today. You can get this from Boat Builder Central. This is what I'm using for all of my work. I'm using a medium hardener. You can use, they have slow, medium, and fast, depending on how quick you want the stuff to cure. When it's cold out like it is now here in the wintertime, I always go with medium because it gives you it's the equivalent of a slow, just because it's colder outside. So epoxy takes heat to cure. So if you got a fast and you try this in the summertime, it's probably going to cure so fast you're going to have a tough time working it, especially if it's your first time doing this. I always recommend for beginners to start with a medium or slow. All it's going to do is just take a longer amount of time to cure. So this epoxy, all epoxies are different. You want to read carefully what you have. So some are 3-to-1, some are 2-to-1. This epoxy happens to be 2-to-1. So you're going to use 1 part hardener, 2 parts epoxy. You want to get some of these mixing cups from Home Depot, Lowe's. I actually buy them from Amazon because you can get 25 packs really cheap for under $1 a piece. Whereas at Lowe's and your local hardware store, they're going to be about double that. But if you don't have, if you need one on a pinch, you can go to a Lowe's. But if you can get them online, order them online. And the other tool you're going to need is these chip brushes. Again, you can buy those at a local hardware store as well. They're about $1.50 a piece, or you can get them through Amazon for roughly 50 cents a piece. So again, cost savings, you want to buy those in bulk because you're going to use them one time and throw them away. You do not rinse brushes out like this. And they're called chip brushes. You can get them in 1-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch, 4-inch. I don't know how big they go, but that's the variety I use. You're also going to want some acetone because this thins fiberglass resins. So you can add this safely to this epoxy and it will make it thinner. And then as it evaporates out, no harm, no foul, but it makes it easier to work, and it makes it like more liquid, a higher or lower viscosity, I guess. So it gets thinner and it's easier to soak into materials. And it also is good for cleaning off tools. If you get it on stuff, you can wipe it off with this stuff. If you get it on your hands, you can wipe it off with this stuff. So definitely have some acetone handy as well. All right, so before we add the fiberglass around this lip, we're gonna sand this to get it good and scuffed up, any loose material off of it. Just get it nice and down to a good, clean, smooth surface so you have a good bond. So one thing to mention is you wanna make sure you thoroughly stir your epoxy. If you do not mix this well, it's going to not cure. And you're gonna have a big mess on your hands, and it's a nightmare to fix. So take my word for it, stir it, and when you think you've stirred it enough, stir it some more. So this I mixed up is 6 ounces of epoxy and 3 ounces of hardener, giving us our 2-to-1 ratio. We're gonna stir this up and stir this and stir this. I'm actually gonna add a splash of acetone to it as well, maybe 1 ounce of acetone. And again, that's just gonna thin it out because this stuff is, I don't know if you can see that, this stuff is thick. So we wanna thin it out just because it's cold, and that'll make it easier to spread. All right, we've got our epoxy mixed up. We're gonna start with the first piece. First, you wanna wet your surface. It doesn't matter if you make a mess because we're gonna be able to sand all this stuff later anyway. So just be generous with it. Last thing you want is dry spots in here. If a few bristles from your brush get in there, that's fine too. They're just gonna live in there forever. No big deal. No big deal. Again, this is not science, like rocket science here. This is just easy peasy glass work. This is as simple as it gets with fiberglass. All right, so we're wetting it all out. This thing is shedding a lot of hair. This brush, I got like 3 or 4 of them in there, which again, I'm not really too concerned about. All right, there's your epoxy. Next, we're gonna wet out the first piece. So we got our first piece here. Start on the underside of it, especially when using this stuff that has matte on the bottom and biaxial on the top. You want to soak it all in. Go heavy. You don't want dry spots. We want this stuff thoroughly soaked in. You'll see it start to turn translucent. So that's a good sign. So we're going to lay this stuff just like that. Again, when you think you got enough on there, put a little bit more. You're not going to hurt anything. The only thing that's going to mess it up is if you don't have enough. Alright, we're going to lay this in here. Like so. Snug it on down. Right? Okay, easy does it. Mash it down, get it nice in there. And we're going to go back over it again. That way we make sure both sides are evenly coated and that you don't have any dry glass in here. If you're doing multiple layers, it's imperative to go heavy, because the worst thing that can happen is you put too much on here, it's just going to soak into the next piece of glass. Alright, so there's our first piece. We'll make sure that lays down nice and flat. Okay, like so. Back it all the way up to the edge. Make sure you get all the bubbles out. If you got bubbles, sit there and work them out. Alright, do the same thing on the other side. Same exact process, guys. We're going to come in here. We're just going to wet this guy down. Again, nothing special about this. Make sure it's really wetted down. Okay. And you can take this stuff and even give it a little roll, just to make sure that when you lay it down, the edges lie flat. You don't want to crease it, but you can definitely manipulate it. This one's going to go on this side. Alright, so there we go. That's piece number 2. Alright. Now what do we got to do next? We got to wet that. Okay. Here we go. Wet that side. Making sure you get all area. Again, you'll see it turn clear. You can't miss that this stuff is laid out properly. Okay. There's your 2 pieces there. Okay. Now, we're going to lay one across the top. If math is not your strong suit, you might not want to build boats. Because There's a whole lot of math involved. I told my kid when he fusses about fractions that if he wants to build boats or be in construction at all, it's a good trait to know. Alright, so there's our next one. This one's we're going to butt right up to it. Again. There we go. I want you to understand that people are intimidated by this stuff. It's not hard work. It's a little bit messy, but it's not hard. And it's really tough to screw up, to be honest with you. As long as you're following all the proper steps and doing what you're supposed to do. Looking good in the neighborhood. Alright, so we got a nice straight line here, straight line here. Sometimes this stuff is old. This is older material, so sometimes this stuff likes to curl. Alright, we got our first layer down. And I apologize in advance for the shoddy camera work. But when you're doing this stuff for speed and you're solo, you just make do. Wet that down heavy. This one's gonna go all the way up. You see how that overlaps that top one right here. So now we got two pieces there. You can see we're just building this up as we go. And that, my friends, is how you fiberglass. There's nothing to it. I'm not going to sit here and bore you guys with 27 layers of this, but I'll show you the finished product when I'm done. And I think you guys will dig it. And then, like I said, once you sand it and paint it, it's really going to look like, you know, it's supposed to be there, like it came with the boat. So we'll fill this gap in right there. There you go. Building her up. All right, I ran out of time last night. It was like 12:30 by the time I got those last couple pieces on this tackle tray holder. So we're back at it night two. What I did was let this thing cure for 2 days and then hit it with some 100 grit sandpaper and just really roughed it up. We're gonna hit this with some epoxy, wet it down. We're just gonna continue to build this up and try to get it up to that lip tonight. Should be about 6 layers total. I think will get us there. All right, we got 2 more layers on here. We're building her up. We're almost there. Almost there. I think 2 more layers will do it. So I've got alternating sizes so the overlaps aren't all in the same place. We'll do these next, then we'll drop those on there. Just wet it out. Easy peasy. I'll tell you, this Teflon paper is making a huge difference. You can like literally squeegee this stuff up and push it around on your fabric and save a lot of epoxy. So for the sake of the video of just laying some fiberglass to start and some pointers and just like a quick rundown, that's the end of this one, right? This is what we got. 8 layers. You can see we've built it up enough now to where all we gotta do is clean this up on the sides and make it look pretty. And it's going to be beautiful, and that tray is going to sit in there nice and even. A boat outfitter's tackle box insert is going in here with drawers and knife holders and all kinds of stuff. It's going to be awesome, so stay tuned for that. But once you get good at doing stuff like this, you can step up and start doing center consoles, live well lids. That's a giant fish box upside down right there. So you can see it gets addictive. Then you're going to want to build a boat. So to do that, follow our channel, subscribe, check out the videos. This will be the 3rd boat that I've built, and every time I learn a little bit more, and I'm trying to pass that along to you guys. So if you got any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm happy to answer anything. Just a guy in a garage working on a boat. Not a professional, just doing the best I can. Hopefully at the end of this, we'll have a gorgeous 29 Seahawk.